Hey guys, it's me Pinky. Today I want to talk about a topic which is kind of going around a bit, which is calves in trouble. I want to spoiler my video a bit and say no, I don't think they are really in trouble, or let's say calves and females. The more maxed you go, the more your synergy is bound to your troop type. While when you have no premium commanders, you can basically run female spears. When you have Kasana, Dani, Layla, Cersei and so on, you're kind of forced to play calves. I don't think they're more in trouble than when Darren was out. There was no Cersei main hand, because back then, if you remember, it was also kind of that bleed was by far the dominant troop type and even females couldn't stop them. And yes, I think, as I said in my Kasana video already, that as a single commander, Kasana is weaker than Vorian, and Vorian is very strong, and if you only get one commander, for example, Vorian will outperform Kasana by far. But I don't think that Kasana is a bad commander for a maxed account. Let's quickly go over why I think this is a temporary thing, and why I think it will change again in the future. By the way, I think the design philosophy behind the game is to kind of balance everything out for a maxed state. Sometimes when new stuff comes out, it will be too strong until the counterpart for it comes out. The only way of balancing this would be changing commanders' abilities all the time for a little bit, but I don't think people would like that, because you buy the stuff for real money and then stuff gets stronger or weaker. So sometimes we are in a state like now where one troop type is a bit too strong, but I want to show and explain you why stuff like this here will in the future not happen anymore. To be fair, I think the infantry count is stronger than the cav count overall, even though the main hands would imply you that the cav count is stronger, but sometimes people are very focused on a few things, and I think the infantry account has more stuff overall, so it's the stronger account at first. Let's quickly talk about how females win their fights. They do it with the commander tags, obviously, and thanks to Salma and now Kasana, females attack before everyone else, so no one else will do damage before females do. Which also tells you a bit in which phase of a fight they should shine. It's kind of, they want to win the early game. From there, they want to have an advantage and snowball that advantage. No, there's a problem. Spears and imps, both, so weakness and bleed, both are running with Night King. So if you have like 20% losses, you get troops from the Night King. So a lot of your losses get replenished. This is a problem for the females because you want to have a critical mass of death, so you have an advantage. So when you attack the next time, you will cut more of them down. So when their synergy starts to kick in, they are attacking with less troops than you have, do less damage to you. So the next time you attack, you lose less troops. Then you hit them even harder because you lost less troops, because they did less damage. Now there's a little bit of a problem with that, and that is for a very simple approach. It's Darren and the anti-counter of the main hands. So you have the infantry anti-counter from Darren, which is 40%, and you can get kind of easily 40%, sometimes even 50%, so you will end up with something 80 to 90% anti-counter. The cavalries will hit you with almost the normal damage that they will always do. They have Vorian, which allows them to deal more damage back, so your advantage from the fighting start will be smaller because you kill less. It will be smaller because the Night King will replenish some, so your first kills will basically be kind of effectless. They will have an effect because they will trigger the Night King, so his effect is out. And thanks to Vorian, they will hit back harder, which also takes away your early game advantage. We have a problem. And yes, you disarm them, but disarm only takes the normal and crit damage away. But for example, for Darren's awakening skill, they still, even if you miss, it still counts as 50 normal attacks. So even if you miss 50 times in a row, Darren will cast his skill. That is, by the way, something I think they could change in the future they make some kind of these small changes sometimes. With Kevin they did, with Arya they did. Anyway, I don't think this will have a very big impact, because in a maxed bleed thing, he's the only one counting normal attacks and doing an effect in normal attacks. And yes, if you rally a city and the player has 4 troop lines, then this is a massive amount of damage. But if it's not a city and it's a normal AC 1 troop versus 1 troop, some kind of event fight where troops are kind of well thanned and you fight 1 line versus 1 line, then his damage impact is noticeable, but not big enough to change this and change the whole fight dynamic. So what females need is, in the end, more damage at the start of the fight to get a bigger advantage. And guess what? This is coming slowly and slowly, because since, I don't know, a year or 2, we have main hands and we have Darren and we are building up anti-counter. And since a while, we are now getting total counter. For example, with this update we got Sandor Clegane, and 12% might sound minimal, but if you then add 8% from Theon, you add 5% from Tyrion, you add 3% from Dragons, you add a few percent from caster skins. Females got as a first troop type the marching animation from the casino, which will return in like 3 months. Maybe then with something new for weakness or bleed. So far it's only for females, which also gives them a bigger damage output. Then you can easily reduce their anti-counter by, I don't know, 30 or 40%. With all this and getting a bit more, you're getting more and more second 1 damage and more damage in the first recast, which will happen around 8 seconds. And with that, there will come a critical point when you do enough damage in the first 2 casts to take out enough of the bleed troops, of the infantry troops, so that fights will swing differently. So yes, I think it's kind of bad that it's always like this. Infantry against the commander is kind of too strong. Then females have to counter up with something extra. In the past it was the Cersei main hand. Now it's you need the total counter. At least I would think this will make a very big difference if you stack enough of the total counter, or counter versus infantries. And then all of a sudden the fights will swing again, and it will look like, why was infantry ever a problem? But that also means that if you're just going for a few commanders and your enemy goes for a few commanders and you have the main hands and the main hands protect the imps and you have nothing to break the imp protection, the Cersei main hand, like the counter damage against infantries, then you will always kind of think that your cavalries look kind of bad against enemy infantries. But on the other hand, it's always like if you reach a critical point of an advantage against them, you will always think like, why were imps ever a problem? So do I like this? No. Do I think that Warrior gets nerfed? No. Do I think that Cassandra needs a buff? No. Was this video useful? I don't even know. But I think it's good to understand why such things sometimes happens and what helps against it. So hopefully this was useful for everyone.